Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really diving into something, well, often hidden in plain sight, the world of sustainable timber.
It's fascinating stuff.
It really is. And you might want to rethink how valuable you think forests are, because the economic clout, it's way bigger than most people imagine.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking, get this, a staggering US $17.6 trillion.
Annually, globally.
That figure always stops you, doesn't it? It's around 21% of global GDP.
Wow.
Yeah, puts forests basically on par with the entire financial services sector. And the real insight here, I think, isn't just the sheer size. It's that this huge, often kind of invisible powerhouse is a massive asset base.
Right.
But it's frequently undervalued. It's where, ecological health translates directly into economic resilience. It touches everything.
Everything from the air we breathe to the furniture in our homes, I suppose.
Exactly.
And that's really our mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
To unpack that massive economic case and the business case, too, for sustainable timber markets.
We'll look globally, then bring it closer to home here in the UK. And then we're going to zoom right in on one particular really remarkable tree, the alpine larch.
It's a great case study. But first, it's so important to grasp that forests aren't just, well, they're not just about the wood we cut down.
There's much more going on.
So much more. They provide these crucial ecosystem services. Things like carbon sequestration, vital for climate regulation.
Okay.
Water regulation, which we need for drinking water, for agriculture. They help prevent floods, control soil erosion, and they're absolutely essential for biodiversity.
So sustainable timber managed the right way.
Exactly. It's not just about making sure we have wood in the future. It's about preserving all this existing economic activity that actually depends on those healthy forests being there.
Okay, let's start with that global economic picture then, the sheer scale of it.
Well, just timber and paper products alone, right? They make up about 16% of all international commodity trade.
16%, that's huge.
It's a significant slice of global commerce.
Huh.
But here's the picker, the critical point. The way we trade timber right now, the current patterns, they're undermining the whole thing.
So?
They're largely unsustainable. We're cutting down primary forests, these irreplaceable old-growth ecosystems, at really alarming rates.
And not replacing them properly.
Not even close in many cases. And this isn't just some, environmental side note. It's a direct hit, a self-inflicted wound on this multi-trillion-dollar global industry.
So we're basically sawing off the branch we're sitting on.
You could say that. Without a fundamental shift, we're not just losing trees, we're actively eroding the foundation of a vital economic sector. Future supply stability is genuinely at risk.
And the climate change connection here is, well, it seems obvious, but maybe worth spelling out.
It's absolutely undeniable. Sustainable timber markets are critical for mitigating climate change and for adapting to it.
Right.
Just think about this. There's actually more carbon stored in the world's forests than there is in the entire atmosphere.
Wow, I didn't know that exact comparison.
Yeah. Trees literally soak up CO2 as they grow. About half of a tree's dry weight, its biomass, is pure carbon.
So when we manage forests sustainably.
Exactly. When a tree is harvested sustainably and then turned into, say, a piece of furniture or building material, that carbon stays locked up for the life of that product.
So well-managed forests and timber markets actually help reduce CO2 levels.
They're an important tool, yes.
Yeah.
And conversely, the IPCC, that's the big climate change panel, they project that just a 2.5 to 3 degrees Celsius rise in global temperature.
Which seems increasingly plausible.
Unfortunately, yes. It could lead to a significant drop in global income, maybe up to 3%, which is like US $2.3 trillion a year.
Just from climate impacts like changing crop yields and things.
Exactly. So forests are really our frontline defense against that kind of economic fallout.
That economic impact alone is just staggering. But you mentioned forests offer more than just timber.
Oh, definitely.
Are there other, maybe less obvious economic contributions we tend to overlook? I'm thinking about things like genetic resources. For medicines, materials science, I've heard those are worth billions.
You've absolutely hit on a crucial point there. Beyond timber, you have what are called non-timber forest products, or NFTPs.
NFTPs, okay.
Yeah, we're talking everything from, say, game animals, nuts, fruits, berries.
Things people gather and use.
Right, medicinal plants, resins, even things like maple syrup. Now, a lot of this is consumed locally. It doesn't always hit the formal market stats.
That's sense.
But estimates put the global value somewhere between US $410 billion and maybe US $910 billion annually.
That's a huge range, but even a low end is massive.
It is. And it just underscores why responsible, sustainable management isn't just, good practice. It's essential if we want to keep benefiting from all these different value streams.
Okay, so we've got the big picture, the macroeconomics, but let's bring it down to individual businesses. What are the actual tangible benefits for them if they embrace sustainable timber? What's the bottom line argument?
Right. And this is where the business case really gets solid.
Right.
First off, regulatory advantages. That's becoming a huge driver.
Like avoiding fines.
Partly, but it's more proactive than that. Environmental regulations like the EU timber regulation, the EUTR, they're getting more common, more stringent.
Okay.
So companies that already have good systems in place, proper due diligence for legal and sustainable sourcing, they just gain a significant competitive edge.
How?
So they avoid the risks, the hassle, the unpredictable costs of trying to fix things later, or outsourcing compliance. That can get expensive. And get this, something like 46% of timber products are already covered by that EU rule.
46%. So it's already a major factor.
Definitely. It shows the way things are going.
Yeah.
If you're ahead of that regulatory curve, you're just better positioned. Less risk.
Okay, so regulations are one thing. What else?
Securing investment. That's another massive benefit. Financial institutions, shareholders. They are increasingly looking very closely at environmental sustainability.
It's not just PR anymore.
Not at all. You've got initiatives like the Soft Commodities Compact. That's where major banks are committing to zero net deforestation in the supply chains they finance.
So money talks, essentially.
It really does. And look at shareholder proposals related to the environment. Back in 1980, there were maybe 1% of proposals. By 2010, it was closer to 12%.
That's a big shift in investor focus.
It's a profound shift. It clearly shows that a company's sustainability stance directly impacts its access to capital, how attractive it is to investors. It's moved from nice to have to, well, fundamental for doing business.
And then there's the whole reputation side of things, brand value.
Huge. Using unsustainable timber, especially indiscriminately, is just a massive reputational risk these days. It can alienate customers, investors.
But the flip side.
The flip side is that publicly advocating for and actually using sustainable timber can seriously boost your company's image.
Build trust. Any examples spring to mind?
Well, think about Marks & Spencer, their big Plan A sustainability campaign. By its third year, it had apparently generated about $50 million in net revenue, partly through new product lines driven by that systemic approach to sustainability.
50 million pounds. That's serious money.
It is. And brand value itself, which can be a huge chunk of a company's market cap, be 11%, even 60% for some businesses, dependent on commodities. That value is heavily influenced by how people perceive your sustainability efforts. And consumers are really driving this change. They're demanding certified products, like from the FSC, the Forest Stewardship Council.
So it allows companies to stand out, build trust, maybe even charge a bit more?
Potentially, yes, or at least maintain loyalty. It builds that crucial trust factor.
Okay, so regulations, investment, reputation. What about just the core business health, the supply chain?
Right. At the end of the day, embracing sustainable timber is about long-term supply security.
Yeah.
If your business depends on timber, you need consistent access to raw materials.
Preferably at a stable price.
Exactly. Volatility is a killer. Sustainable sourcing helps provide that stability. It lets companies innovate, develop new products, plan for the future with stable revenues, instead of just reacting to unpredictable market swings.
That stability must be key for investment decisions within the industry itself.
Absolutely critical. Uncertainty is a major barrier to investment everywhere. Price volatility in raw materials, timber included, disrupts entire supply chains. So a stable, sustainable supply, it just mitigates that risk, creates a much healthier, more resilient business environment for everyone.
Okay, we've painted this pretty comprehensive global picture. Now let's zoom in, as promised, on a really exceptional example that kind of embodies all these principles. The alpine larch.
Ah, yes, the larch.
This isn't just any old tree, is it? It comes from high up in the mountains in Austria, and it has some really unique qualities.
It really does. What's remarkable is it's incredibly fine grain and its natural rot resistance.
Why is it so rot resistant?
It's a direct result of its incredibly slow growth. We're talking maybe 350 years to mature in those harsh mountain climates.
350 years?
Yeah. That slow growth leads to these really tightly packed annual rings and exceptionally strong heartwood formation. It makes it peerlessly rot resistant, even compared to larch grown down in the lowlands.
So it's super tough, super durable. Does it look good too?
Oh, definitely. It has this lovely reddish-brown heartwood, very distinct dark growth rings. And over time, left outside, it develops this beautiful silver gray patina. Very timeless appeal.
And practically speaking.
It's one of the heaviest and hardest native softwoods. It's tougher, more resinous than pine. It's dimensionally stable, meaning it doesn't warp or shrink much.
Ah, that's important for building.
Very. And it means you can use it outdoors for years without needing any chemical preservatives,
Yeah.
which is fantastic from a low maintenance and, true sustainability
Just
perspective.
it's really versatile then. Good for construction, inside and out.
Ideal for high-quality, sustainable construction, yeah.
Right.
Both exterior and interior. But what really makes alpine larch such a great case study in sustainability goes beyond just the wood itself. It's about how it's managed.
Right. What are those specific practices that make it so sustainable?
Well, firstly, it's extracted regionally,
Right.
so short transport distances. That immediately cuts down its carbon footprint compared to, say, tropical hardwoods.
Makes sense.
Then there's the PEFC certified forestry. That's the program for the endorsement of forest certification.
Right. I've seen that label.
It mandates controlled practices. Crucially, for every tree that's cut, another one is planted. This strengthens the local economy, creates steady jobs, and actively helps protect the natural environment there.
So it's good for the local community and the environment.
Exactly. And overall, it boasts a much better life cycle assessment LCA compared to tropical woods, partly because of those short transport routes, partly because it grows in these, well, untouched indigenous mountain environments. It's a perfect sustainable alternative.
And I read this fascinating detail about a specific sawmill, Peter Gragaber in Austria, their commitment to what they call cascading use.
Ah, yes, that's a brilliant example.
They don't just sell the timber planks, right? They use pretty much everything.
That's the idea. The wood waste, the offcuts, the sawdust,
Yeah.
it powers their dry kilns. It gets turned into panels or paper, even garden mulch.
That's really embracing a circular economy within the timber industry itself, getting the absolute maximum value from every single tree.
It's a fantastic example of resource preservation in action, really minimizing waste.
Okay, now shifting gears slightly, but staying with larch. There's also a scientific perspective, isn't there? A study on larch plantations, I think, in China.
Yes, that's right. A study on Larix Principis ruprechtii mer, a type of large plantations in northern China. And it highlights something crucial, how forest management practices, specifically things like thinning and pruning.
You mean how foresters tend to the woods?
Exactly. How those practices significantly influence how much biomass the forest accumulates and therefore how much carbon it can sequester.
So the way we actually manage the forests directly impacts their climate benefit. That seems huge for meeting our climate goals.
It is huge. The study used what scientists call biomass equations. They're basically reliable ways to estimate the carbon stored in the trees, essentially by weighing it.
Okay.
And their key finding was really insightful. They found that aggressively thinning and pruning, what they called higher thinning intensities, actually reduces the total amount of carbon stored in the forest's above-ground biomass.
So doing less intervention is better for carbon storage.
In this case, yes. It suggests that a lighter touch, what they term conservative silvicultural interventions, is actually more effective at maximizing carbon capture while still allowing for a healthy timber yield and maintaining the forest's ecological integrity.
That's fascinating. A balance.
Exactly. And this kind of research is vital. It informs how we can manage forests to better meet global climate goals, like those in the Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement. It's a powerful lesson. Smart management isn't just about timber yield. It directly contributes to tackling climate change.
This global perspective is vital, definitely. But how does all this translate closer to home? Let's bring it back to the UK's own timber industry.
Right.
We might not have those dramatic Austrian mountain larches everywhere, but the industry here is still significant, isn't it?
It certainly plays a big role. Back in, I think it was 2013-14, it contributed around $21 billion to the UK economy.
21 billion.
Yeah, about 1% of UK GDP then, and supported nearly 750,000 full-time jobs. So it's substantial.
But are there challenges here too? Similar sustainability concerns?
There are concerns, yes, particularly among UK foresters about the long-term sustainability of the domestic softwood supply, looking ahead maybe 10 to 30 years.
What's the worry?
It poses a direct threat to sawmills and other primary processors, especially places like southern Scotland where a lot of softwood is grown. And a related challenge is the sheer amount of unmanaged or undermanaged woodland we have.
Really? How much?
Well, one figure suggested 40% in southwest England, for example. That represents significant unused capacity. It's a missed opportunity, really both for economic value and for broader ecosystem benefits you get from well-managed woods.
So there's clear potential for growth, for improvement, if we get the management right here too.
Definitely.
What are some of the strategies? How can the UK increase commercial timber growth without, damaging environmental values?
Well, firstly, making better use of that existing undermanaged woodland space. But beyond that, it's about moving towards landscape scale planning.
What does that mean exactly?
It means thinking bigger than just one individual woodland site, coordinating different ecosystem functions, timber production, recreation, carbon storage, water management across entire landscapes.
A more joined-up approach.
Exactly. It's more complex, sure, but it could lead to higher quality, multi-use forests that deliver more benefits overall. And of course, planting the right tree species, ones that offer both commercial potential and ecological value.
Are there initiatives pushing this?
Yeah, things like Grown in Britain. They work to encourage businesses to source and use more British timber. The idea is that increased demand leads to more active, sustainable management of UK woodlands, bringing all those economic, social, and environmental benefits we've talked about.
And it really does go beyond just the timber supply itself here in the UK, doesn't it? Just like globally, our forests provide those vital ecosystem services that have a direct economic value.
Absolutely. Take flood prevention. Studies have shown that planting new forests in, say, the Thames catchment area could reduce flood damage, providing benefits estimated at £350 to £500 per hectare.
That's a clear financial saving downstream.
It is. And then there's the impact on human health. Air pollution is a massive issue, costs the NHS billions, maybe 9 to 20 billion annually treating respiratory diseases.
And trees help with that.
Trees are brilliant air filters. More trees, especially in urban areas, mean cleaner air, which means direct healthcare savings. It's a clear link.
And quality of life, too. Recreation.
Huge benefits there. Planting new woodlands near cities could yield recreational benefits worth nearly $550 million per year, just from people using and enjoying them. Forests are genuinely these multifunctional assets. They provide value across so many different sectors.
So, wrapping this all up,
Yeah.
what's the main takeaway? This deep dive, it really seems to have hammered home this compelling economic and business case for sustainable timber.
Absolutely.
It's clearly not just about, being green. It's about financial stability. It's about securing future supply, building strong
Yeah,
brands.
smart business, fundamentally.
And the alpine arch, as we explored, it's just such a great tangible example of how one specific type of timber can really embody all those sustainable principles right from the forest floor through to the final product.
It really is. And ultimately, I think the critical point is that we need to make sustainable timber the norm, not the exception.
That feels like a big shift still.
It is. We have to maintain, even increase supply to meet growing demand, but do it while also facing this urgent need to preserve our natural environments. It's not an easy path.
There must be difficult trade-offs involved.
Inevitably. Balancing competing pressures and demands, growing cities needing land, agriculture needing land, people wanting wilderness. It's complex.
And maybe that's the provocative thought to leave everyone with today. How do we collectively, as societies, but also individually navigate these complex trade-offs? How do we balance the need for resources like timber with the absolute necessity of preserving nature to ensure we actually have a thriving future for both people and the planet? Something to think about. Maybe consider your own choices, how your actions might support these vital shifts towards a truly sustainable timber market.